Am I the a-hole for making my 14-year-old daughter take out her nose piercing that she had done herself and disguised with pimple patches? My daughter, 14, had been complaining about a monster zit on her nose for a couple of weeks and was using pimple patches to treat it. At least, that's what I thought was going on and had no reason to question it. I was driving her to school yesterday and noticed that in place of the pimple patch, there was a little nose stud, and I was shocked and asked multiple questions. I made it clear that I was not happy. Rather than going off on her in the kiss and ride line, I took a breath and let her know that we would be talking about it after school. In the end, I made her remove the piercing and took her phone away for the weekend. She pierced it herself. I apologize for being unclear. The idea of a nose piercing has been brought up plenty of times over the past year or so. The compromise that I thought we had settled on was that we would discuss it more seriously when she is 16 years old, which I think is fair. I'm not conservative and absolutely encourage her to express herself via fashion, hair, makeup, jewelry, etc. She would not come out of her bedroom last night and cried, which may have also been because of her phone being taken away. She told me that removing the piercing should have been punishment enough, and I actually think I went pretty easy on her. The thing is that she lied about doing something that I thought had been settled. The kiddo clearly thinks I'm the asshole, but I'm not so sure. Luckily, there was no infection and I'm hoping it closes up without scarring. I'm a single parent and her father is not involved whatsoever, making times such as this a bit more tricky for me to handle without second-guessing my actions. Am I the a-hole for reminding my brother, 42M, how old our mom was when she died, after he mentioned trying for a child? My mother and father had my brother at 20 but waited on me until they were 40. My dad died a few years after that because of health problems. My mom also had a long line of issues between and her family that resulted in immobility and lack of capacity. I was never really a kid because she needed someone to care for her and we didn't have the money for outside resources. She died when I was 19. Because I want fair judgment, I'll admit I'm resentful of my parents for having me when they did health-wise, not age-wise. If they did not have so many health issues and had me at 40, I would feel differently. The roles just felt reversed. Maybe that's clouding my judgment. Many of their issues were genetic or a combination of genes with also negative health choices. My brother is now 42, in similar health as they were, and has expressed no desire to change or take steps towards reducing his risks of certain diseases. Him and I do not talk much, and when we do it's very quick. He told me recently his wife and him were trying for a child. I didn't say anything because I didn't know how to reply. He later texted me what was wrong. He said to be honest because it was clear I didn't like what he admitted, and I told him both our parents died very young because of health reasons. I don't say that to scare him, but I was barely adult when mom died of things we are susceptible to. It's not up to me and he can do what he wants, yet consider how tough it can be to lose parents at such young ages and the impact it can have. There was no reply, but both his mill and wife texted me to say my mom was a brave woman and I need to get over what happened because she loved me, just like my brother will love his potential child. My brother wasn't around when our parents became very sick, so I don't think it had a similar impact on him. Am I the a-hole for telling my mill to take her damn cookies and get out of my house? My twin daughters are both 18 and wrote the SAT last month. The results came back yesterday. One of my daughters, Laura, did very well. She got a 1,540 and is very proud, as she should be. Her sister Emily didn't do so well. She got somewhere in the low 1300s, and I know that this is still not a bad score at all. But she worked very hard for the test and was really disappointed with her score. She has always struggled more with schoolwork than her sister, who does better without having to try quite as hard. Not to minimize her effort. Laura does work hard as well, but it does come a bit easier for her. My mill has always favored Laura, mostly because she does better in school. She won't show it very obviously, but in little ways. For example, she makes them a birthday cake most years and always writes Laura's name bigger and first. Emily resents this a bit but doesn't mind too much, as they rarely see their grandma. Only Laura regularly video calls her, with my husband. My mill called yesterday to ask the girls how they did. Emily said she didn't want to talk to her. She told me, not my mill, so I only gave the phone to Laura. Laura said her score and her grandma congratulated her excitedly. My mill then asked Laura how Emily did. Laura said Emily did alright. When I got the phone back, my mill asked if she could come visit tomorrow to congratulate Laura. I said let me check quickly if anything else is happening tomorrow, and I asked Emily if her grandma can come over to celebrate their results. Emily said that was fine, so I told my mill she could come. My husband was at work when she came over. She brought a box of cookies and gave it to Laura, saying she was proud. Emily was standing there too and looked hurt. I asked if she had brought anything for Emily. She laughed a little and said not this time, but she'll make even better cookies when Emily does her resit. No one told her she was resitting. My mill just assumed. Emily went upstairs and I think she was crying. So I told my mill very sharply that she can take her damn cookies and get out. She was shocked and angry but she left. Laura is also upset because she says she earned it, and I'm ruining her relationship with her grandma. My husband says I had no right. Am I the a-hole for trying to stop someone getting a house? My mom has had the same neighbors for 50 years. Her next-door neighbor was in a government-subsidized home. The lady has now moved to a long-term assisted living facility, so her house is vacant. One of our other neighbors has a daughter married with a few kids. They want the now vacant home as she would be directly opposite her mother and the house has a garden for the children. They asked us if we would sign a petition to convince the government to house them there. This is where the problem is. Our neighbors are wonderful people. So is their daughter and grandchildren, but the son-in-law is a thug. He has tried to intimidate my extended family over a public parking space which he has claimed as his own. Screaming obscenities at us, revving his car like he will mow us down, and using his sheer size to stand over us to intimidate us. My elderly mother is terrified of him, but because of how wonderful my neighbors are, she feels like she cannot refuse to sign this petition. She said she feels incredibly anxious about potentially living next door to this man. As it stands, she will not leave the house or car if he is there, as she is so afraid of him. And at the moment, he is just there occasionally. But if he is living next door, she feels like she will be trapped. Yes, I wanted to report him to the police, and to the housing agency, but my mom didn't want to make him angrier, so she wouldn't allow me. Would I be the a-hole if I reported him to the housing agency anyway? I do not want my elderly mother to feel afraid entering and leaving her own home for maybe the amount of time she has left on this planet. Am I the a-hole for eating at the children I babysit for's house? I, 20F, babysit for some extra cash on the side. This just happened and it's eating me up, so here we go. So, the family ordered pizza for dinner. Mom left cash on the table for me to pay. It was me, and two boys, 7 and 10, large cheese pizza and breadsticks. I have always been under the impression that the babysitter is allowed to have a reasonable amount of dinner if they're expected to serve dinner. I've babysat a few times in the past and have never encountered this. When the parents came home to relieve me, they asked how tonight went. I said fine, and said that the pizza place was really good as I had never ordered from there before. Mom looked at me puzzled, and asked why I ate the kids' dinner. I said I just had 2 pieces of pizza and a breadstick. I feel as if this was not an inappropriate amount to eat. However, the parents disagreed. Dad said that they didn't expect to have to feed me dinner as well, and told me not to eat their family's food. Overall, I am very uncomfortable and confused by this experience. Both boys were fed, and did not complain about being hungry for the rest of the night. I personally have always assumed, perhaps wrongly, that if I am expected to serve dinner as a sitter then I am welcome to have a serving. Is this something anyone else has experienced?